Hello Internet and welcome to a new tutorial. A year and a half ago I've released a video with the Nodal2 synthesizer in which I said this is not the synthesizer for me. And for some reason I thought that the whole line of Nodal2 synthesizer is quite similar, so by definition they are not the synthesizers for me. A while ago, the usual suspects released the Nodal2 Red X synthesizer, which is the DSP emulation of the OG Nodal2, and guys, oh my god, I was wrong. I mean, at first, it all started as, yeah, let's just have fun with the synthesizer for a couple of hours and see what it can do. And then I just fell completely in love with it. I can talk about it for hours. I think what's best to do is we start this tutorial and I'll show you why the synthesizer is special and what it can do and why I fell in love with it. So let's start with a quick overview. The Nodal2 synthesizer, pretty straightforward. We have a couple of oscillators, each providing the bread and butter wave shapes. So sine, triangle, saw, square for the first oscillator. The second oscillator, same wave shapes, but we don't have the sine, we have an additional noise oscillator. We can control the pulse width for both oscillators with this knob in here, and we can FM them, ring modulate them, and synchronize them. Keyboard tracking, pitch control, and fine-tuning only available for the second oscillator, and with them we can create some really nice psychedelic wizardry. This is awesome. The Nodal2 synthesizer comes with a couple of envelopes, very basic, attack, decay, sustain, release ones, one for the amplifier and one for the filter. And speaking of the filter, this synthesizer has one of the best sounding digital filters out there. I mean, remember, it was made in 1997, and honestly, the only filter that comes close to it in my experience is Ableton's Analog, and yet it isn't that good. I mean, just check this out. Wow. Modulation-wise, the Nodal2 comes with a couple of LFOs. Each can be routed to only one destination. The first one is the classic LFO, comes with the classic shapes. So sample and glide, triangle, sample and hold, square, and wrap down. And you can use it to modulate either the FM, oscillator 2, pitch, PWM, oscillator 2 and 1 pitches, and filter cutoff. We can synchronize this LFO, but we cannot retrigger its phase. LFO2 is a little bit different. It's a double module. You can either use it as an LFO with a triangle shape to modulate either oscillator 1 and 2 pitches, amp, or basically the volume, or the filter cutoff, or you can use it as an arpeggiator. So depending on the patch you're creating, you have to sacrifice either the arpeggiator or the LFO. But since Nodal2 is a VST and we're using it in the DAW, we can always sacrifice the arpeggiator and use an external ARP to drive the synthesizer and keep LFO2 running as a traditional LFO. Lastly, we have a really simple mod envelope, attack, decay, that we can use to modulate either the FM, PWM, or oscillator 2 pitch using this amount knob in here. As for the effects, the Nodal2 offers only one effect. It's a distortion, and you can only turn it on or off. You cannot control the amount. There's no dry and wet. There's only on or off. If you're enjoying my content and want to support my work, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Maybe use that super thanks button. Become a Patreon to get all of the presets we're making in these tutorials and many more exclusive content. And if you want to dive deeper into psychedelic sound design and Psytrance arrangement and sequencing, check out my preset packs and masterclasses linked down in the comment section. Now the big question, how someone like me, who considers the Virus to be one of the best synthesizers out there, at least in the hardware world, for its deep sound design capabilities, fell in love with such a simple and straightforward synthesizer that has nothing to do with the sound design capabilities of the Virus? The answer for that is sometimes simplicity is key and less is more. This synthesizer is the definition of this concept, and it sounds extraordinary. It has nothing to do with the NL4 that I've reviewed almost a couple of years ago. And because of that, I was able to create crazy psychedelic sounds with it on the fly. I mean, it was designed for live use. Everything is laid out for you to be able to jam with it. All we have to do is get a MIDI controller, route the knobs that you like to it, and you're good to go. You have hours of fun and crazy psychedelic sounds. Just check this out. Let's take the second oscillator. Let's set it a couple of octaves lower. Let's set it to a saw. Keep the oscillator mix to only oscillator 1, and let's FM the first oscillator. Now we have this. Juicy FM right from the start. Now, let's set the first LFO in here to synchronize, keep it on sample and hold, and let's make it modulate oscillator 1 and 2 pitches. So now we have this. Okay, super noisy. Let's take the filter, set it to bandpass, close it, give it some resonance. Now we have this. Maybe too much resonance. Let's take it down. Okay, sounding good. Now we want to make this patch way more interesting. Let's turn on my random arpeggiator. We have this now. Perfect. Now let's take the mod envelope in here and let's make it modulate the oscillator to pitch. Let's set the decay to a smaller value like this. Let's modulate the cutoff while I am playing with the mod envelope amount. We're already creating something in between a squelch and an FM. You know what could be fun? Let's take the second LFO in here, turn off the arpeggiator. Now we have an LFO. Set it to modulate oscillator 1 and 2 pitches. Set the rate somewhere in here, give it some amount, and now we have this. Check this out. We can get away without the mod envelope, but the trick in here is that when we set it to extreme values, it's either pushing the modulation way too much into the higher frequencies or way too much into the lower frequencies. And when it's hitting way too much in the lower frequencies, we're getting a really nice bubbly sound. So we've just created a combo between a squelch, a classic electric FM, and a bubbly FM. So basically 3 sounds in one patch. Now, if you give it some delay and maybe a comp filter, we'll get this. Check this out. Wow, this is juicy. Let's give it some kick and bass. I think I found the best companion for my Virus, because the Virus is a sound design powerhouse. It will take care of creating those deep, complex patches, while the Nodal2 or the Node Lead2 is going to take care of live jamming and basically adding this humanized, organic feeling to my tracks. Here's another example of what the synthesizer is capable of doing. I have the second oscillator set to a square wave, modulating the first oscillator, which is set to a triangle wave. The second oscillator has been taken up by 3 octaves, so plus 36, and I've set the pulse width to somewhere in the middle. Now, the FM amount is being modulated with the mode envelope, so long attack, long decay, and a good amount of modulation. I've created a tremolo effect by modulating the amp or the volume using the second LFO, and I've modulated the PWM or the pulse width of the second oscillator using the first LFO that I've set to triangle, and by the way, it's not synchronized at all. This is something a little bit annoying because when you save a preset, it doesn't save if the LFO is synchronized or unsynchronized. You always have to set it manually. In the case of this patch, it's not synchronized. So now we have this. Check this out. I just gave it a little bit of reverb. I'm using Comet by Polyverse. Let's give it more PWM modulation and maybe at a slower rate so you'll hear what it's doing. Let's give it higher rate. You can set it to maybe sample and glide. Or maybe ramp down. Of course, you can change the mod envelope in here to get other timbres. I had so much fun with the synthesizer that I've created a 58 presets bank for it that you can grab now following the link in the description. This preset bank comes with a PDF explaining how every preset is supposed to operate, which parameter to modulate, and suggestions to add effects to it. And of course, I didn't forget whether the LFOs are synchronized or not. So if you enjoy my work and want to get some crazy psychedelic sounds out of your Node Lead 2 or Nodal Red 2, you know what to do. And with this is the end of this tutorial. I really hope you've liked it. I really hope you've learned something new. I'll see you in the next one.